and welcome to Agyanada program. Today's program is titled The Art of Deception and will deal with camouflage, coloration, and mimicry. And we have Mr. Robert de Souza presenting the program for us today. But before I continue and introduce Mr. Robert de Souza, I'd like to talk about the initiative under which we bring to you this program. Our program today is brought to you under our recent initiative titled Gyanpedia. Gyanpedia aims to share knowledge from various fields with experts as panelists who bring a great deal of passion to their field and in the way they present their areas of interest. And in line with that is our program today, The Art of Deception. Before we move on, I would like to take a moment to talk about Nityasha Foundation. Nityasha Foundation is a sister concern of Gyanada and is a registered charitable trust that serves underprivileged children suffering from type 1 diabetes. These children are from economically weaker sections and require medical support and care on a regular basis. Nityasha for many years now has been providing insulin, glucose strips, and regular consultation with doctors for these children. We currently help 130 children in Pune, and please consider this as a generous, our heartfelt request to ask you, to urge you to donate to this cause with your complete hearts. And right now on your screen, you can see is a QR code, which will take you directly to Google Pay, where you can make these donations. Further, we have a link to Give India Foundation. This is particularly helpful for donors from abroad. Please consider using this link in order to donate. And finally, these are all our communication portals. You can find us on our website, Facebook, Instagram. And lastly is the WhatsApp number of our trustee, Mr. Farooq Merchant. You can directly get in touch with him and drop him a message if you would like to have more details about donations. Further, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our presenter for the evening, Mr. Robert de Souza. Mr. Robert de Souza was a small glimpse of what Gyanada stands for. Moving on, our presenter for the evening is Mr. Robert de Souza. He is an electrical engineering graduate from IIT Bombay with a master's in technology education from ODU Norfolk in the US. Since he was young, his passion has been nature study and wildlife photography. For this, he has traveled extensively, covering all 7 continents. And this is very apparent in his website and in his work, which you can find on robertdesouza.com. Mr. Robert is also passionate about conservation and sustainability. He is a member of the Audubon Society and the World Wildlife Fund. As a life member of the Bombay Natural History Society, he has been involved in bird and butterfly census activities. He has taught students the importance of renewable energy and conservation and was instrumental in installing an educational hybrid wind turbine or solar panel system at schools, and which was the first such system at a middle school in the United States. Without further ado, Mr. Robert, over to you.
Thank you, Alaknanda, for that great introduction. And I hope I can live up to that. I note that I've got people from the Bombay Natural History Society, and so I'll have to be careful about what I say. So one of the things I wanted to say is that there's a lot to be learned in the animal world, and camouflage is only one of them. If you take sight, for example, you've got insects which have compound eyes. Each facet of that compound eye is connected by a separate nerve to the brain. House So basically, what you saw there was the butterflies, um, the males attracting the females and so on. And this is one aspect which we can't even see, the ultraviolet part of it, which is so much more than what we seem to think. The other clip I want to show you is about the way the colors we can see and the colors some animals cannot see. For example, some animals cannot see in the red region at all. And so that does help in camouflage for the predators.
Use their colors to help them hide and disappear into the background. One such animal lives here in the forests of central India. It's one of the most formidable hunters on Earth. A Bengal tiger, a female. She's one of the world's biggest cats, and remaining out of sight is not easy when you are as large as she is. Her orange and black coat is crucial to her success. To have any chance of catching a meal, she has to get to within a few meters of her prey. She keeps to the cover of the trees and slowly makes her approach. She may appear conspicuous to our eyes, but not so to these chital deer. Chital have only 2 types of color receptors in their eyes compared to our 3, which means that they are effectively blind to red and orange. So to the deer, the tiger isn't orange at all. This is how we see the world. And this is how the deer do. The tiger's orange coat to them is a muted shade of green. So it's nearly impossible for the deer to register. She creeps closer. The chital don't see her. The odds appear stacked in the tiger's favor. But the deer aren't entirely defenseless. They have help from an unusual ally. Langur monkeys. They're known as the eyes of the forest, and their color vision is excellent. Their eyes, like ours, have 3 types of color receptors, and they can see orange.
Robert, we can't see anything. It's all black. Robert, we can't see anything. It's all black. Can you play it again with some color?
Before she could get close enough.
I think Netflix restricts it on screen sharing.
Can you see it now?
No.
Sir, Netflix does not allow the content on the screen sharing.
Okay.
Had you tried it out before?
Yeah, I've tried it out before.
There, it's coming. It's coming.
Then is the tiger orange at all?
No, once again. Do it. There. That's it.
Okay, I'll go back to.
That's because mammals are unable to develop green pigments.
One sec, I'll go back. Sorry about that, guys.
There you got the picture.
Satish sir, the picture will be shown on the queue, but it will not be shown on the screen.
Have any chance?
Can you see it now?
No.
No, sir. No, sir.
Not at all.
You can't see it?
No.
Oh.
Lives here in the forests of central India. It's one of the
I think
most
Netflix is quite smart.
a Bengal tiger.
The issue is the previous one we were able to see, and that was Netflix also.
Biggest cats.
Okay.
And remaining out of sight is not easy when you are
Okay,
as
let
large
me
as she is.
do
last
something
try.
else with this.
Okay,
1 minute.
try the next one.
An orange and black coat is crucial to her success.
So while sharing the screen, there's a option of optimizing the video for screen share. So maybe you can check that option and then try it again.
Wait, I will do something else. Okay.
How did it go when you did it for the IIT group?
Yeah, I use the same thing, but I will do it on this. Can you see it now?
No, we see you only.
She will have to find a new target.
So can you share the link so I can do it from here? Yeah.
We
Now
got
the
it.
video is come. Yeah.
You can see it?
Down
Yes.
by
Yes.
the
Yes.
She finds one. Sambar deer. Sambar don't receptors in their eyes.
Start now. Don't go back. Don't go back. Start now.
She has to get to within.
Okay, guys. Sorry about the interruption there because with Netflix, and I showed it earlier. It showed fine. I'm just taking it to my website now to show you a couple of things.
Just check the 1 minute. Please start it again. Don't start it again, but just click the start. You got it closed. You got it shut. Just start the.
No, I have closed that.
Okay, open it again and let it go. It's working. It was working well.
Yeah, but it's I'm done with that part.
If the langus can easily spot her, why then is the tiger orange at all? Why isn't she green? That's because mammals are unable to develop.
Yeah.
Again, it's stopping every now and then.
Yeah, I've stopped it.
Okay, up to you.
I stopped that, Sadish, because I just wanted to show the clip, that part
Okay, go ahead.
where the thing was. So I just wanted to show you a couple of things. This is from my website. I just want to show you that the animals which are in these areas where there's only black and white are mostly the same color. And so that's how they remain camouflaged. So they're very muted colors in the Arctic and Antarctic. And just wanted to show you this before I ended my talk. Of course, you're free to look at the other areas on my website for that.
Go ahead. Can't hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to thank all of you for giving me the honor of presenting this. Farooq, Satish, Lakananda, and so on. And I do need to thank my wife because she's been with me every step of the way. Because of her, I was able to travel to all these places where she unselfishly helped me, supported me during my travels. And I will open it out now up to questions. And I'll stop the share.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Why don't you, what questions do you have? Sandhi, you got a beautiful light looking on at you. Sandhi, yes.
Robert sir, what is the equipment that you use? Obviously, your equipment is absolutely top notch. This is Apurva. Yeah.
Well, I use Nikon bodies right now. I used film earlier.
Yeah.
Like the F100 and stuff like that. And then I graduated to the D7200.
Okay.
Initially, before that, the 300S. Now I've got a D850, which I love.
Yeah.
It is really the wildlife photographer's camera.
And how do you work on low light?
Yeah, it does work on fairly low light. And I've got two prime lenses, 300 and 500, and 80 to 400. So those are my main lenses for wildlife photography.
Okay. And how do you get your illumination and exposure spot on? That's, I mean, it's one of the most difficult things, and
yeah, I've been doing it for over 40 years now, so that's something I think I should get.
Yeah. Okay. One thing which do you have some sort of idea about how do these warnings get passed? Like one bird says in the species that it's not supposed to eat such and such worm because it is poisonous to you. So where does this knowledge get passed in the genes? And have you done any, because we are saying cause and effect, but there is something beyond it. Yes, sir.
Agreed. We don't really understand totally how this works, but the fact is that each bird has quite a few insects in its diet. And so if it finds that one is distasteful, it's going to avoid that. And that itself is a huge number of insects, saved.
Okay.
So that's one of the things which you can look at.
But how do they pass it on? What is your idea of how do they pass it on to the species? We had a pet cat and we had a rubber snake, and the cat had never seen a snake before, but it reacted as if it was a real snake. So yeah, so that is built genetically into the cat.
It does. For example, if the animals which, for example, are colored in a certain way, and if 0.005% of them survive better than the ones that are not, then you'll have more of those. And over millions of years, you will have an evolution which where the animals are closer to that warning coloration or camouflage which survive and so on. So it's a race against time and evolution.
Where all have you traveled? Okay, let's start with India. Where all have you traveled in India?
India, I've been to most of the sanctuaries in the middle, like Kara, Bandhavgarh, and I've gone to Corbett and Chitwan in Nepal.
Hmm.
I've gone into Sariska and Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary. And then, of course, in Maharashtra, I've traveled a lot within the state. And then, of course, Africa, East Africa, South Africa. I've been to about 5 parks in Kenya, 4 parks in Tanzania. We talk of North and South America, I've been to the Galapagos, several trips to the Alaskan area. Then, of course, one of my favorite places is Costa Rica.
Yes.
2 visits there. And Antarctica, of course, I was lucky to go just before the pandemic hit, 2019. I went to the Arctic, went to Iceland, went to the Norwegian Arctic where I photographed polar bear, which you'll see on my website.
Yeah.
Then west to Australia, some of the parts in Australia, went to Komodo Islands to photograph the Komodo dragon.
Yes.
So,
what's been your most impatient moment or patient moment that you have to sit for 2 hours before the thing actually materializes? Have you had moments like this as a wildlife photographer?
Oh, that's happened very, very often.
Yes.
But quite often you spend 2 hours and get nothing, and then you get. I remember I was in Goa trying to photograph kingfisher for over an hour, and it was not cooperating. It was moving here and there, and then finally I just swung my 400mm lens on the tripod around, and it came to focus straight on a common sandpiper.
Wow.
On the beach, and it was perfectly in focus, and I filled a whole 36mm film with that bird, and one of the pictures made into a calendar. So it's all a question of, as one golfer once said, the harder I try, the luckier I get.
Yes.
So it's a question of patience. Wildlife photography is a question of patience. Recently in Alaska, photographing brown bear catching salmon. You'll see the sequence on my website. But it took me like 20 minutes to half an hour to get that sequence, because you got to get the right moment and you got to capture that moment. And that's the skill. If it was too easy,
everybody
it wouldn't be fun at all.
And do you go alone or do you go in a group? Or do you have friends?
I normally go with my wife.
Okay.
The 2 of us travel. Yeah. Okay. She's also a good photographer.
Yes.
So Iraq Barucha has raised his hand and has a question for you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Iraq, sir? Yeah.
Please speak. Mr. Barucha, please speak. Eraj, we're waiting for you. Dr. Eraj Barucha.
Yeah, he's unmuted. Mr. Rak, you can speak, sir.
Robert, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. That was very great fun.
Thank you.
By the way, Robert,
hello.
Eraj is one of India's biggest and most important environmentalists.
Never mind that. When I take kids out, and even my MSc students, nowadays I don't focus so much on taxonomy at all. I talk to them about nature connectedness and how this all works. And camouflage and mimicry is one of the most fascinating things for them. And that's what they really remember. So it's not that they remember the taxonomy so well, especially in the earlier phases. But these are the kinds of things that they never forget. And therefore, it becomes very fascinating. What I would like to ask you, Robert, however, is what was the evolutionary background of how this could have happened. And that somehow for me is very fascinating. And you don't see too much literature on that. That when did all this happen? If you really look at it, many of the species which do this, either mimicry or camouflaging, are really very ancient species. So it's obvious that this has had something to do with their being present today and not having gone extinct. So these are the very interesting things that happen from an evolutionary angle. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, exactly. There's one thing which is important, I think, and that is variability. You've got to have some type of variability in the species. And when that variability becomes advantageous for predation or to escape predation, then that species tends to survive. If there's no variability at all, then it becomes more difficult. One example is the praying mantis. You'll see a praying mantis of different shapes and sizes. And it's just that there's so much variability, and each of them is unique. And some of them are so heavily camouflaged that it could only happen due to both variability and evolution. There's got to be some variability, yes.
Yeah, since you mentioned mantids, the orchid mantid is so very different from any other mantid.
Exactly.
And just so very beautiful. You can't miss it even when it's
even size-wise. There's such a difference between.
Also quite large, yes. What about camouflage and other systems like mimicry in the marine domain?
Well, in the marine domain, it is really extremely popular. I mean, you look at the octopus, for example. Not only is it able to camouflage its colors, but even the texture. The texture changes to look like a rock or something like that. So it's very, very prevalent in the marine world. Unfortunately, I don't have underwater equipment. Otherwise, I would love to have done some underwater photography. When I've snorkeled in the Caribbean and in the Galapagos area, but I've not been able to get involved with underwater photography yet. But yes, that's a huge, huge area where there's a lot of camouflage, mimicry, and so on.
What do we do?
It's a very good question.
Robert, I have a quick question. I wanted to ask you a couple of things. You mentioned about, the clip mentioned about ultraviolet. Now, I think a couple of things, if you could throw some insight in terms of why ultraviolet? I mean, in the full broad spectrum of electromagnetic waves, why that and that only? And then the second question is, how do you know what individual animals are able to see? Is it just looking at the rods and cones and therefore infer that they are able to see?
Yeah, a lot of studies have been made for this, and I don't think I'm privy to many of those studies, but why not ultraviolet? Why ultraviolet, you asked, but the thing is, we tend to view everything as the visible spectrum because we can see the visible spectrum, but the nature's a much larger canvas.
No, why not infrared? Because body heat is infrared. So if somebody was to completely camouflage themselves, at least you can see the body heat. And then I think that's what
that happens. That happens. If you take pit vipers, for example, they have heat sensing pits where they're able to sense the body heat of their prey. So it is used. Definitely it is used. Infrared is used more as a heat sensor than as a light source. But it is used a lot.
Right.
So I have a question for you. Have you ever commercialized these?
Identify yourself.
Shehzad from Mehsang.
Hi, Heba. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, sir, have you ever commercialized these photographs to any of the National Geographic or Discovery or anywhere else?
Yeah, some of my photographs have been used, not in National Geographic and all, but one of my lion pictures, or two of my lion pictures, which I took at Gir Forest, made it into the Insect Guide on Wildlife of Southeast Asia. And some had been photographed, used in calendars and publications like that. But no, not National Geographic yet.
Okay, okay.
One
Anyone
more
else
question.
with questions?
Yeah, one more question. And I don't want to show. I don't want to start religious wars here, but I wanted to ask. Your entire emphasis is around evolution, and if it's uncomfortable for you to answer, that's fine. But do you think this is part of the intelligent design?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There has to be an intelligent design for such things to happen. There has to be a superior intelligent being, because think of the periodic table, for example. It's so ordered, so structured. It could not have been something by random. It had to be created by some intelligent being. And that's every element in the world we have is part of that periodic table. And so it's really, really, I feel that's really important.
Has it answered your question, Sandy?
Not quite, because order is really different than design. So, for example, I am a pretty good chef. So there are about 20 different ingredients I use, from mustard seeds to. So saying all of them are in order versus putting them in a unique fashion, different chefs are creating different food items that become their specialty, but the basic ingredients are still the same. So one could say that the periodic table 92 or plus whatever elements are just happen to be basic ingredients. The question of intelligent design, and that's why I want it to be answered in a scientific way, not in a religious way. Is there a design? I mean, I look at the beauty of animals and insects, and I look at that and said there is something very interesting and colorful about them, and it's not because of some happenstance that this all came together. And I don't have an answer, I just have a question.
Sandy, I think this is what we require, to be able to think yourself and keep it there. I don't think it's part of whether it's going to be something which religious or something like that. But what I enjoy, look at it from this point. It's so beautiful. What is this wide variety of people and wide variety of flowers, animals, plants, etc., is something which we have to enjoy and look at it further. How can we save it? And that's what I think is the talk about it. And Robert, seriously, I feel that you're doing an excellent thing. Make a presentation of what you have done. He has gone to Alaska recently to see the bears catching hold of the salmon. I think you can write a whole story about it, Robert, and maybe a month or